All right, friends, here we are. What are we doing here? It's a Thursday night at 9 o'clock, and we're going to watch Gavin Newsom debate Ron Desantis with, get ready, Sean Hannity being the moderator, term used incredibly loosely. Good to be with you. Hello. If it's any consolation to you all, if you want to know how much I suffer for you, I have Fox News turned on. I actually had to buy YouTube Plus because I couldn't find it for free. So I bought like the YouTube subscription for a free trial, and I turn on and it's Jesse Waters. And I'm like, okay, I've heard about this person. This is like Tucker Carlson's replacement. He's awful. He's god awful. I mean, it was terrible. It was like, I think one of the first things he says was something about Muslims, and I'm just like, what are we talking about? But anyway, good to see you all. Let me see if I can get the chat up here. Let's see, where's my chat box? There it is. What's up, friends? Hello. Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts. I went live a little bit earlier to kind of talk about a few things here. There's been some rumors, we can say, that Newsom might replace Biden. Now, I don't think that's realistically the truth. I think that this is about after the 2024 election. I mean, let's face it, DeSantis has to know that he's a cooked goose. He's trailing way too far behind to catch up. I mean, he could become the nominee, but he would be the first person to ever become the nominee for based on his polling. Like, his polling is so low. That's where we're at with that. So I think it's very unlikely that he gets that. That being said, Newsom isn't even running. So the idea of him trying to run a year out to do this would just be ridiculous. Okay. Sorry, my stream had to refresh. So I don't think that this is what's happening. I think this is about 2028, frankly. Okay, so a couple things. I did some research. I was checking out, like, okay, how do these people stack? Like, how do their states stack up? Right? Because this is kind of the way that Fox News is positioning this is the great battle of the red state versus the blue state. So I just went through some of the notes, and honestly, I was kind of surprised at some of the data I found. Now, let me be clear. I pulled this data quickly. There's always context behind this stuff, and one of my biggest pet peeves on either side of the conversation is that there's no way that one person is behind all of the good or all of the bad that happens in this state. Now, of course, governors and presidents have a lot of sway. They can make a lot of changes. I get all that, but I mean, there's a lot of other things behind the scenes and legally that have to happen for rules to get implemented, etc. So, I don't think I don't think it's fair to be like, well, all the bad stuff in California is all Newsom's fault, and all the good stuff is all of his fault. And same thing goes for DeSantis. I mean, I'm not a big DeSantis fan. I am totally biased. I fully admit it. I do not like Ron DeSantis. Okay, you're not getting fair and balanced here from my personal perspective, but I do want to do my best to at least look at the data and say, well, we have to take this into consideration as we move forward, especially in tonight's debate. So here's a couple things. Change my screen here. Can you all see that? All right. First thing I pulled up was the firearm mortality by state. Now, this one might surprise you. This is 2021. I found some newer data. It was hard to know if it was legit or not, so I pulled from the CDC. This is 2021. California is sitting on 3,576 deaths, and Florida is at 3,142 deaths. Okay, now, here's what's interesting about this. The population size absolutely matters, and populations here are very interesting because the Florida population is about 21 million, while California is at double that. So keep that in mind for some of these stats I'm giving you. They don't always take into account the actual population. Now, that being said, I want to look at house prices because right now housing is through the roof, and I was like, well, where are we at? What is more... I'm sorry, I just read a very mean comment by Daniel. Tim, the bags under your eyes remind me of the bags that are under my eyes. Thanks, Daniel. I don't wear anything to conceal who I am, okay? This is just how it is. Read it and weep. Do I look tired? I don't feel tired. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so these are the populations. About 40 million in California, about 21 million in Florida. Keep that in mind. Now, let's go to home values. This is according to Zillow. All right. Now, Zillow is one of the biggest real estate websites. $745,000 is the average cost to own a home in California. Can you just sit with that for a second? I live in New Jersey, We have the highest property taxes. It's a very expensive state. The average cost in California for a home is $746,000. I don't care who's governor. That's ridiculous. That is crazy. And again, we all know that governors don't have all the power, right? It's not like Newsom or Desantis can wave a magic wand and get what they want. But still, if we're going to compare state to state, we got to look at this. That's a crazy cost compared to Florida, where it's literally almost half that. $392,000. Now, to be fair, in Florida, you got to deal with hurricanes, but in California, you got to deal with earthquakes. So I'm just saying, like, that's kind of crazy to me that California is literally double the cost of the house. And Daniel wants to apologize. I can relate to this sleep struggle. Didn't mean to be mean. My bad. No, I don't think you're being mean, Daniel, at all. I sleep okay, I think. I don't know. These bags under my eyes, they just are what they are at this point, so I just deal with it. But no, you're all good, man. I see you all the time. I'm just giving you a hard time. So, okay, so we had that. Now let's look at the next thing, property taxes. Now, here's something very interesting. You would think, people tend to think that the more liberal the state, the higher the property taxes. Now, that can be true. Look at New Jersey. We're a very liberal state. We have the highest property tax. We are number 51. Now, surprisingly, though, Florida is number 24 and California is number 16. So they actually have a lower average property tax. These are averages, okay? So depending on where you live, it could look very different. But property taxes, California is cheaper. But here's the other interesting thing, though. How about the wages? That was important. Okay, so what's the average wage in California? According to talent.com, it's about $65,000. Florida is about, can you guys see that all right? Sorry, my screen here. Move that over here. Florida is about $55,000. Now, the average salary in California is $10,000 higher, but remember, friends, the average cost of a house is literally almost double. I'm sorry, that does not add up for me. Like, the average wage, that $10,000 gap does not cover what the average cost of a house is in California. I honestly, when I saw that number, I did a double take. I was like, no, that cannot be real. There's no way it costs that much, but 745. I just cannot believe that. That is ridiculous. So, a couple other things I looked into here. COVID. Let's look at COVID deaths and COVID cases. So, this is going to be, which one is this? I think this is California, if I'm not mistaken. It's probably here somewhere, but yes, this is definitely, let's see. Yep, California. So California, remember, they have double the population of Florida, okay? They had 12 million confirmed cases, 101,000 deaths, 87,000 doses of the vaccine administered. Florida had 7 million cases, 86,000 deaths. So almost double the population with way more than like half. Well, it's like the death ratio does not add up. Sorry, I'm a little tired. They have a higher death ratio per given the population than California does. So that was very interesting to me to look at. And so I wanted to just kind of look into some of these things because I'm sure we're going to hear a lot from DeSantis and Gavin. They're going to trade shots. They're going to attack each other's economies or cost of living. Also, I looked this up, but I didn't tell you. That California's gas prices are like almost $1.85 higher on average than Florida. Now, I went to California for the first time recently. I was in San Diego. Gas was $6 a gallon. I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, wow, it is gorgeous out here. It's beautiful, but that's a lot of money. Now, Caitlin brings up a good point. Makes sense. How many $1 million mansions are in California, though? Skews the average a bit. That definitely can absolutely be the case. You have LA, you have Hollywood. I get all that for sure. And again, averages don't speak for the whole state, etc. I get that. But I still think it's important to at least recognize that, yeah, it's interesting. Now, also, Gavin has had some scandals recently. One of the things that he did, and he admitted to doing this, was he cleaned up the streets in San Francisco. By clean up, I mean he somehow got rid of all of the unsheltered and unhoused people that were on the streets to make way from, I think it was a visitor from China, like one of the delegates or something like that. And he admitted, like, yep, when a guest comes over, you have to clean your house. That's pretty much what he said. I'm like, dude, that's not a good look. Also, where do these people go? Like, are they now housed? Did you give them like what was the solution? Where are they? So he's taking some flack for that, which I think is well deserved. And I think something for us to keep in mind, friends, is that Democrat or, being more liberal than DeSantis doesn't automatically mean that like you're thinking in decolonized ways or in ways that are actually fighting for liberation, especially of groups like unsheltered people who have a really, I think, a stereotype towards them, right? That they're just lazy or don't want to work. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I thought that was a fair critique. And also, Gavin came under fire during COVID. There were a couple of times where he didn't have a mask on. He actually apologized because he attended a party at one point and he was photographed without a mask. Now, when it comes to DeSantis, do I really have to break it down for you? I mean, like I said, I'm biased. DeSantis is trying to be the more extreme version of Trump with his, attack on wokeism and trying to go after Disney and trying to literally like rewrite history and public education. Like, he's honestly a disaster. I don't find him very I don't find his speech attractive. Like, I don't think he's a very compelling communicator. So I think that Gavin is going to do pretty well tonight, even though Gavin has his own problems. But you never know. So we're going to watch it. I'm going to do my best to, call balls and strikes, so they say. But man, I'm just not a fan of DeSantis at all. And I don't know why they're doing this. Like, maybe they think that this is going to boost DeSantis's approval rating. Maybe it's going to boost whatever it is. So, all right, let's get into it. Here we go. I'm going to turn it on. Jesse Waters is over. I stalled long enough to get him off of your screen. Here we go. Let's tune in. Boop.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight we are broadcasting live just north of Atlanta, Georgia, in Alpharetta, Georgia, where in just a moment we're going to hear from the Republican governor of Florida, the Democratic governor of the great state of California, for what is the first ever red state, blue state debate.
Is my audio okay, friends? Can you guys hear me all right?
Now, we will do our best to give equal time to each governor. We will limit answers to 60 seconds per question. Right. We'll be a little flexible as needed. Let the debate breathe as needed, along with a 30-second time for rebuttal. Let me start by introducing both Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Here we go, friends.
Governors, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Sean.
I know both of you personally. I've known you both for a long time. I know you're very busy. I also know this. I know that both of you
personally. That's very
love your individual states. Yeah. I know you both have a deep and abiding love for our country, as I do. But where we are in the country, we've never kind of been this divided in a long time. There are clear and profound differences in your approach to governance. Right. And before we begin, one quick note to all of you that are watching at home. Okay, I'm now the longest-running primetime cable host in the history of cable news. I'm now, and I feel blessed, in my 28th year at Fox. It's kind of widely known that I am a conservative. However, tonight I will be moderating this debate. I will not be part of the debate.
We'll see.
Our questions tonight will be coming from well-sourced, fact-centered perspectives, and you will see and hear most of tonight's questions will deal with the most fundamental issues, the ones that impact the lives of the people that make this country great, the people in Florida, the people in California, and in many ways, every state in the country. We'll discuss taxes, the economy, immigration, crime, guns,
get off my stream then,
education,
Matthew.
Parental rights, abortion, gas prices. In other words, the things that impact you every single day.
You'll be all right, buddy.
In the end, you will get to decide which governing philosophy you believe is better. The governors will explain their governing philosophy. And again, fact-based questions. So let's get started. Everybody ready? All right. As we speak, there is a phenomenon. It is playing out across the entire country. Americans, they are leaving blue states in droves in favor of red states. You can see numbers on the screen right now from the years 2021 and 2022. These particular numbers are stark in the state that you lead. In the case of you, Governor Newsom, according to the U.S. Census, this is where the numbers come from. In 2021, 2022, California's lost 750,000 residents to other states. Governor DeSantis, during that same two-year period, you gained 454,000 residents from other states. So, Governor DeSantis, we had a coin toss. I was not part of it. I missed it. But apparently, Governor Newsom, you won the coin toss. And you chose to let Governor DeSantis have the first question. You will get the last word tonight. So I begin with you. For Governor Newsom, I will ask, what your response is on this as well. It's a simple question. How do you explain this phenomenon? Governor, what's going on?
When I was in the Navy, I got orders to go to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in Southern California. And I was a lifelong Floridian, but I went there and I was like, man, this is one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I think California has more natural advantages than any state in the country. You almost have to try to mess California up. And yeah, that's what Gavin Newsom has done since he's been governor.
Here we go.
He's the first governor to ever lose population. They actually, at one point, ran out of U-Hauls in the state of California because so many people were leaving. Of course, he's imposed restrictions on his own people while exempting himself from those restrictions and going to the French Laundry while his people were suffering.
That's
he
the mask
led the
mandate
country in school closures, locking kids out of school while he had his own kids in private school in person. Now, he's very good at spinning these tales. He's good at being slick and slippery. He'll tell a blizzard of lies to be able to try to mask the failures. But the reality is they have failed because of his leftist ideology. And the choice for America is this. What Biden and Harris and Newsom want to do is take the California model and do that nationally. In Florida, we showed that conservative principles work. This country must choose freedom over failure.
Wow.
Governor Newsom, your reaction.
Swinging.
Well, it's good to be with you, Sean. It's nice also to see you in a tie as well tonight. Good to be with you, Ron. And
I dressed up for the occasion, Governor.
No, I'm impressed and I'm grateful. Look, it's an important occasion. This is an important conversation. And I think it's important to the folks watching. They're probably wondering, what are we actually doing here?
Yes, thank you.
And I want to answer that very directly. I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here to tell the truth about the Biden-Harris record and also compare and contrast Ron DeSantis' record and the Republican Party's record as a point of contrast that's as different as daylight and darkness. You want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse. You want to roll back hard-earned national rights on voting rights, on civil rights, on LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just access to abortion, but also access to contraception. You want to weaponize grievance. You are focusing on false separateness. You in particular, Ron, are on a banning binge, a cultural purge, intimidating and humiliating people you disagree with. You and President Trump are really trying to light democracy on fire. So, Sean, there are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engaging them. But there's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
Governor, great opening statement, but
it did not address
the issue.
I agree with Sean.
This migration.
He did not answer the question.
Out of California and going to red state, blue state.
Well, hold on. You mean the last 2 years, more Floridians going to California than Californians going to Florida?
No, I put up on.
By the way, that's going to be fun to fact check. So we'll just start right there. California has no peers. California dominates, sizable 21 state populations combined. It's the fifth largest economy in the world. We dominate, #1 manufacturing state. We dominate in two-way trade and research and development, access to innovation, more scientists, more researchers, more engineers, more Nobel laureates in the state of California than any other state in the nation, the finest system of higher education. It's the birthplace of life science and biotech and nanotechnology. We dominate in green tech. We dominate in high tech. We dominate in artificial intelligence. So with respect, I think it's an interesting campaign strategy for Ron DeSantis to be bashing a state of 40 million Americans when California simply has no peers.
Well, that's a pretty slick way of not answering your question. He went on a binge of putting out a lot of left-wing platitudes. Here's what I would say. I talked to a lot of the people that have moved from California to Florida, and we never used to get people from California to Florida or really anywhere in the East, because why would you leave California? It's got the best weather, great natural forces. Excuse me, sir. But one of the things that I did, I was talking to a gentleman a couple.
Guys, I'm going to let the debate breathe. But it's his turn. Let's take turns.
So I was talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida. And why are we getting people to come?
That's a shot.
We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. You don't see in the last 10 years, we've had a 45% decline in homelessness. California's had a 45% increase in homelessness. We back the blue. I was walking the streets of San Francisco a couple months ago, and I had some of the cops in San Francisco do a beeline to come over to me, and I didn't know what they were going to say. And they're like, we want to thank you for standing for law enforcement because we don't get that support in the state of California. So people understand quality of life matters. They understand
DeSantis
that
is
Florida's
firing
doing it
shots.
right. And I can tell you the numbers speak for themselves. We have way more people moving to this state than leaving. Gavin can't say the opposite. More people are leaving California than are moving into California.
Let me bring up
coming to California the other way around the last 2 years. But let's talk about crime.
Governor, hold on. Governor, wait a minute.
I think
hold on a second.
He said a lot of things that were factually untrue, including that 50-year crime low, which his own law enforcement team said you should not be using.
You have yet to address the issue, but I asked you twice. You don't want to answer it. But the issue of why the migration out of red states, out of blue states.
We just established more Floridians coming to California in the last 2 years than the
overall,
other.
You had a net loss of 7.
It's a fact.
You just asserted it.
It's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It is a fact.
Moving on. Let's go.
Your
states
not really a great
have
answer, but also great answers.
different income tax rates. Okay, it is what it is. These are the facts. California's highest rate for top earners, 13%. Married couple, for example, in California, earning a median income of $84,000, they have a 6% income tax in the state of California. Florida's income tax rate is 0% across all salaries, but it goes beyond income taxes. Property taxes are lower in California, but everything else is higher. Let's take a look at the numbers. These are the facts. The average property tax in California, 0.75%, Florida, 0.91%. Sales tax, California, 7.25%, Florida, 6%. Gas tax rate, California, 77 cents a gallon.
Sean's so facts-driven all of a sudden.
A low estimate. It's up to $1 when you include mandatory fees, and in Florida, it's 35 cents. Corporate income tax, California, 8.84%, Florida, 5.5%. Governor Newsom, this is your question. Let me ask you. Obviously, you support a different philosophy, which is higher taxes.
Yes. No, hold on.
No, this is a tax question, Governor.
This is a very different approach, and I agree with you completely. He has one of the most regressive tax rates in the United States of America. It's the number 3 most regressive state in America. And what that means is simply this. Who does he tax? He taxes low-income workers more than we tax millionaires and billionaires in the state of California. The question is a simple one. Who, Ron, are you for? It's a factual lie that the state of California has the highest tax rate, but for whom? And it's a foundational and fundamental difference. You look at states like Texas, overwhelming majority of Texans pay more taxes than the state of California. So again, it's who you're for. And I think those values matter. And I appreciate you bringing up the issue of taxes.
How many people leave Florida to go to California because they pay less taxes? I've not seen that. Are people going from Florida to New York because they pay less taxes? Of course not. They come to Florida because they pay lower taxes.
Carl's not a fan of Gavin.
Income tax. And yet California has a higher sales tax than we do, and that's one of the things that we do. But here's the thing, and I'll give Gavin credit. He did at least admit in his first answer, he's joined at the hip with Biden and Harris. He thinks Biden and Harris have done a great job. He thinks the economy is working because of their policies for Americans, and they are not. And so what California represents is the Biden-Harris agenda on steroids. They would love nothing more than to get 4 more years to be able to take the California model nationally. That would be disastrous for working people in this country.
Well, talk about working people. They pay more in your state than the state of California charges for billionaires and millionaires. And it's just a value proposition.
True.
It's a fact. Again, you can't make
You
these
have
things
$6
up.
or $7 a gallon gas. How do they afford that? These are folks that are blue-collar people.
You were talking
You're
about
going to force everybody to buy an electric vehicle. How are they going to be able to afford electric vehicles if you're working class people? And I think the thing about California, they have one of the highest inequality rates because, yeah, they've got Silicon Valley billionaires. They've got a lot of very wealthy people. They've got a lot of people that are on government assistance, but they've hollowed out their middle class. That's who's been leaving California. They've been leaving in other places. They go to Arizona. They go to Nevada. They go to all these places. Biden is hollowing out this country. They're doing in California.
Ron, I'm happy that you continue to talk. Let's talk a little bit about Bidenomics, because I'm happy to take that on right now as well. And I think it's a fair point.
You're a big supporter of it. I appreciate you acknowledging
14 million jobs, 10 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined.
Because he had
15,000 manufacturing
the jobs were because of the COVID lockdowns. Are you kidding me?
3.9% unemployment as he continues to talk over
very
me. I'll
interesting.
talk to the American people. 3.9% unemployment, the lowest black unemployment in American history, the lowest unemployment for Hispanics in American history, the lowest unemployment for women in 70 years, the lowest black poverty rates in history. That's this administration's agenda. And by the way, as you smile and smirk over there, you should know this, the American people. Here's a guy who celebrated Bidenomics just this week, celebrating $28 million that came into your state because of the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the most significant economic plans since FDR. I'm proud of the work Biden and Harris have done.
Would you like to respond?
Wow.
And I do have a follow-up. The 6% rate on people, families, couple in California, they pay 6% income tax on $84,000 a year.
Low-wage workers in the state of Florida pay more than billionaire state of California.
I didn't ask about Florida.
Governor,
but here's let me ask the question.
Spinning lies.
Let me ask the question.
Able to try to cover for his
Ron, if I may
answer the
question.
Okay.
California has lower taxes, lower than 32 states for working families in the middle class, significantly lower taxes than places like Texas.
84,000 seems pretty middle class to me.
I'm against regressive taxes that advantage billionaires and millionaires over working families and the working poor. People in his state pay more taxes on the low end than we tax people on the high end. That's
paying
a fact.
$7 a gallon gas help working people? That doesn't help working people at all. How does paying an 8% sales tax help working people? That doesn't help working people at all. They have the highest taxes in the nation. People flee to be able to save money to get out of California. And you have working class people that move to these other states. Their dollars go much further. But here's the thing. They want to take this Bidenomics and they want to double down on this for the next 4 years. How many people are able to afford groceries now compared to what you were doing 3 or 4 years ago? I talked to people, I talked to a woman who had a cart full of groceries going in, and they're ringing it up. And it got to be so expensive, she has to take a lot of the stuff out. That didn't.
I'm gonna be honest here for a second, friends. While he talks about this, I agree, I feel him. This is my life, lived experience. Not sure about yours, but my grocery bill is through the roof. My wife and I are watching every penny. So regardless of how the economy is doing on paper, at least me, I'm not sure about you, I'm not feeling many of the effects of like whatever they're talking about with growth and wages, etc.
They have a political agenda that they're pursuing.
Let me ask that question. On with the question of jobs. I think it's important. You know what? That affects that affects everybody.
Biden administration, the last 3 years, it's been a master
Joe
class
Biden
of job
paying you
creation.
tonight?
3.9%.
All
right, son, don't get biased.
No, but it's about the United States of America. I thought this guy was running for president of the United States. If
you
you're
are
running
too.
for
You just won't admit it.
You're running for a third.
You just won't admit it. You will not admit it.
Why don't
you just admit that you're running?
Hold on.
All right, we can't talk. We can't talk. I'm going to move on to the next question. The unemployment rate in Florida right now is just 2.8%, as you stated. And California ranks second worst in the country at 4.8%. Hold on. This question goes to Governor DeSantis, and then you'll have a chance to respond. Governor DeSantis.
Well, right. I mean, they tax too much. They regulate too much. They have a political agenda. It's not a good climate for business. They've lost a lot of companies. A lot of companies have moved to Texas. We have had some to Florida, but they've lost a lot of companies to Texas because they're not doing a good job looking out for folks and not creating a good business environment. And, when I have people that come to Florida, they tell me, you guys actually want us to succeed in Florida. And they feel like when they're in California, they don't want business to succeed.
Is that what Disney's saying, the Tampa Bay Rays?
Well, actually, yeah. I think that's an interesting point with Disney because I had Disney open during COVID, and we made them a fortune, and we saved a lot of jobs. You had Disney closed inexplicably for over a year. You were not following science. You were a lockdown governor. You did a lot of damage to your people. You had more kids locked out of school for a longer period of time in California than anywhere else in the country. It was the working class kids. It was the middle income kids. His kids were in private school. They were in class in person. He locked people out because of the teachers' union. He is owned by the teachers' union. You will never cross the teachers' union.
Just a lot of hot
Lock, stock, and barrel.
Let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about your record on COVID. You passed an emergency declaration before the state of California did. You closed down your beaches, your bars, your restaurants.
False.
It's a fact.
The beaches
You had
were not
quarantines.
False.
You had quarantines. You had checkpoints all over the state of Florida. By the way, I didn't say that. Donald Trump laid you out on this, dead to right. You did that.
True.
You followed science. You followed Fauci, Ron Santos.
That's not false.
He followed science.
That's not
He
true.
followed Fauci. You
And
were
why did
promoting.
everyone leave
Hold on. You
California
were
to come to
promoting
Florida? Because we
vaccines.
were open.
You were promoting
We were
vaccines. You
open.
even
We were
wore a
closed.
mask in
We
September.
were open.
Sean,
You were closed.
DeSantis, shut up. Let him talk. Jesus.
We'll do this.
Why were you
Why don't we do
closed for
this
so
in a way
long?
where we both can have
Why were you closed for
opportunity?
so long?
You wore
You
a
were
mask
closed.
with
Guys,
Donald
guys,
Trump
closed.
I'm
outside
trying to let it breathe.
in September
Gavin,
2020. He did all of
Governor
that
Newsom.
until he decided to fall prey to the fringe of his party. And as a consequence of that,
That is
Ron,
true.
tens of thousands of people lost their lives.
Not true.
The equivalent, if I had your policies, the equivalent of 10 9/11s. Tens of thousands of people lost their lives. And for what, Ron?
Those are more lies. In fact, the Lancet just did a study. Florida had a lower standardized COVID death rate than California did. That's a Lancet study. One more thing.
29% higher COVID
The other
death
thing
rate
we
in the
had,
state of
the other
California.
thing
Didn't even come
California
close.
had,
Your
California
record
had
is one
higher
of
excess
failure
mortality
on
than
COVID.
All right,
Florida.
gentlemen.
Let me talk about the excess
hang on.
mortality.
DeSantis is wrong on this, by the way. He's
Hold
just
on a
not true.
second.
We showed you
I want to
earlier.
ask you both. Slow down. I want everyone to be heard. If I can
That's
ask
why
you,
we're
I
here,
really do
Andrew,
want this to breathe.
watch
I
it.
want this debate to breathe. I want it to organically develop. To do that, I need both your cooperation. I don't want to be a hall monitor. It's not my style, all right? You mentioned COVID. Let me go to COVID. And I plan to bring this up later, but you both took very different approaches as it comes to COVID. Governor Newsom, you issued the nation's first stay-at-home order on March 19th of 2020. Governor DeSantis, you took a lot of heat for reopening schools. You opened schools in Florida in August of 2020. All right, so here's the data, which I think is important. This is where the facts come in. Your state's death rates were almost identical.
This is factually untrue.
Hold on.
Factually untrue.
Okay. And by the way, both your states, with such different approaches, which is pretty fascinating, were both lower, significantly lower than the national average. These numbers come straight from the CDC. So, Governor Newsom, how do you explain that?
The facts. Per capita death rates
That's what that is.
in the state of Florida were 29%, 29% per capita higher. 29%.
That's not what the stats say right there.
People, tens of thousands of people
Don't
unnecessarily
lie about
died.
it. He put the graphic
Tens
up
of
there. Don't
thousands of
lie
people
about it.
unnecessarily
You don't need to lie
died
about it.
because your
I mean,
policies.
Just understand.
You're lying
You
Here's
don't
what
need
I
to lie
got.
about it. No,
Father
it's not.
You were a
Freeman.
lockdown governor.
No, it's
You
not.
locked down
One at a time,
schools,
Gavin.
California,
you locked down beaches, bars, and
Florida.
restaurants. That's just a fact.
Double the population
He's running
of
away
California,
from his
half the
record.
population
He's
size.
running away from the fact.
So-
Tens of thousands of people died
You saw
unnecessarily
the CDC
because he
numbers.
caved to
Is that right?
It's 29% higher death rate in the state
Not
of
according to the
Florida
CDC.
versus the state of California.
quick
Tens of
response,
thousands
Governor.
of people
You
died.
showed the stats.
Fact.
The stats are very clear.
One at a time.
On a per capita age-adjusted basis, California and Florida basically the same. Now, why is that important? Because Gavin Newsom did huge damage to people in California. He ruined livelihoods. We reopened the state
died
very
under your
quickly.
watch.
We saved thousands of jobs. We saved hundreds of thousands of jobs, thousands of businesses. We had our kids in school. He had the kids locked out of school because of the teachers union. That is having a generational impact. California has one of the lowest literacy rates in the country. In the most recent NAEP exam, Florida came in number 3 for 4th grade reading. California was far, far behind. So you should apologize for not getting your kids in school. Why didn't you get the kids in school in the summer of 2020 like we did?
The only
you bowed
person-
to the teachers
the only
union.
person-
You didn't do the job you should have
John,
done.
All right.
the only
We need
person,
leadership.
the only person
provide-
who needs
one
to
at a time, quick
apologize
answer.
is Ron DeSantis for the tens of thousands of lives
Jesus.
that died unnecessarily because he played to the fringe of his party.
We got to take a break.
And
finish your thought.
No, and when it comes to the issue of schools, you better be careful. You had more learning loss during COVID than the national average in the state of California. It's a fact. More learning loss. Your economy contracted
Look this
more in
up.
2020.
All right, quick
break.
Expanded slower than California.
All right, we get it. We get it. You guys hate each other. Jesus. All right. Wow. Well, that was something. We all alive, friends? Jeez Louise. That was... So I have a lot of thoughts here. Yeah, I mean, that per capita rate, I'm trying to find it on CDC. I'm not sure when that date is. What I have here on my end is 86,000 deaths for all time in Florida. This was as of March of 2023. And then I have 101,000 deaths for California. But California has almost double the population. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a landslide, but I think that there are overall less deaths per capita than Florida. This is a very interesting debate, friends. I gotta say, DeSantis is really swinging here big time. And Newsom's opening statement, if it wasn't under the pretense of a question that he didn't answer, I thought was super strong. I do think, though, that DeSantis is getting the better of the exchanges because, for example, right, and this is one of the benefits of when you speak in like a lot of rhetoric. Remember, I am biased. I fully admit that. So if you're looking for fair and balanced, that's just not me. When it comes to DeSantis, I'm not really a fan at all. But people like DeSantis, are really good at speaking in like these little clickbait, like just hardline facts. And when you're talking about taxes and how taxes work, you need more time to unpack how taxes work. So Newsom could absolutely be correct with what he's saying, but for the average American, right, who's like, my gas is higher, my grocery bills are higher, look, the sales tax rate is higher, that affects all people. I think that the average person's like, yeah, like I don't think Newsom is I'm not following what Newsom is saying. And listen, it's fair. Like I said earlier, I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel a lot of the pain in my own pocket. Like I see the numbers, or I see the stories about, Biden's economy is up and 5% growth. And I'm like, I'm really happy for those people, but it ain't happening to me because my grocery bill is it's high. It has almost went up by about 50 or 60% for me and my family we're 4 total. So I just got to be honest with that. I think that's a really strong point for DeSantis to be like, hey, average American person, are you feeling it more in your pocket? Are you saving money? And I think the average person's like, no, I don't think that is the case. Now, if that's Biden's fault or not is a different discussion, okay? Like we said earlier when I first started broadcasting, we have to understand that it's impossible for one person to be responsible for everything, okay? Let's just be very clear about that. And so I don't want to play that game of like, oh, it's all Newsom's success and all of DeSantis' failure and vice versa. It's more complicated than that. But I do think overall DeSantis came out stronger than I thought. I do think, though, that Newsom is much more composed, and I think I could definitely see him become the nominee in 2028. I don't think it's going to happen sooner than later. And by the way, I thought it was a really good swing to mention to DeSantis that only one person is running for president, and here we are. So yeah, so the A team has asked this question. I've seen this a few times in the chat. And by the way, friends, I'm reading all of the chat, so keep it up. Thanks for being here. If you don't know, we're a nonprofit organization. We do this work completely paywall free. If you want to support us, you can donate or you can give us a super chat. All of the finances go to making this work and all of our other work happen. So thanks for being here. Why is this debate happening exactly? Why did they say why? They really didn't. I mean, Hannity kind of framed it as like, look, like this is, different ways of viewing the country and the future of America. One other thing, by the way, speaking of Hannity, this is what drives me crazy. Sean Hannity plays a character on TV and on the radio because he obviously can be measured. He can be respectful to a Democrat. He can be someone who's nice. Now, I do think some of his questions so far are a little more biased, or like try and make it look, not as one-sided as they make it look at best more equal, like, hey, California and Florida are really close in like all the bad things, and at worst it's like, oh, look, Florida is gaining all of his people and California is not. But it is frustrating to watch it's just interesting to watch Hannity become like an actual moderator. So someone asked if I could put the links up during the present. Yeah, listen, I can do that. If it helps, I literally just Google this shit. I'm like, what's the highest rate of this in California? I find like the CDC answer. So I would definitely do my best to put that in the chat for sure. So thanks for the recommendation on that. I'm sorry, in the show notes, and we'll do our best. But yeah, friends, I'm kind of curious for you. I mean, I have 100 people watching this with me. What are your thoughts? Like, who won the first one? Do you think it was DeSantis? Do you think it was Hannity? Hannity. Wow. Do you think it was Newsom? I would just love your thoughts on that. I think that'd be important to hear what you're thinking as far as who's actually winning this debate. Why are they doing it? I'm still thinking about that. Who the hell knows? So, okay, here we go. We're back.
all said the border is either secure or the border is closed. Yet the Border Patrol says, well, guess what? They have been a record 6.5 million encounters with illegal immigrants and so-called asylum seekers at the border since President Biden took office. The administration says, well, they don't know how many people actually are in the country illegally. Gentlemen, the American people, I ask you, I believe it's your turn, Governor Newsom, have the American people on the issue of borders, you're defending the Biden administration, they're saying the border's secure, they're saying the border's closed.
I tend to agree.
Those are the numbers from our own Border Patrol. Are the American people being lied to?
I don't think they're being lied to. The Biden administration put out a comprehensive plan day one when he got sworn into office 3 years ago, and the Republican Party didn't touch it. They haven't moved on it. They play politics with us. And I'll be honest with you, I think there's probably one person I wouldn't listen to on this topic more than the guy that I'm standing next to, Ron Desantis. He lacks any credibility on the issue of immigration.
Thanks,
when
Eric,
he was in
appreciate
Congress,
that.
he supported amnesty. When he's in Congress, you supported John Boehner's bill. It's a fact.
False.
When you were in Congress, you supported
I killed John
Obama's.
Boehner's
You
bill.
supported Obama's efforts
That is
to
false.
advance comprehensive reform.
False.
The last guy you want to talk to on the issue of immigration. Your immigration policy can best be described as a governor from the state of Florida going into another state, the state of Texas, lying to migrants, promising them jobs and housing, sending them to an island, Martha's Vineyard, and then sending them to a parking lot in Sacramento, California. I met with those migrants that you lied to under false pretense. That kind of gamesmanship, using human beings as pawns, I think is disqualifying. So again, a guy who stands here, who's been out on the Republican debate stage saying, well, he's going to be tough, he's going to shoot people with backpacks, and that he has a strategy to potentially even invade our second largest trading partner, Mexico,
crazy.
that has a record of supporting amnesty and supporting reforms under the Obama administration, is the last guy to be standing on stage talking about the issue of immigration reform tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's deja vu all over again with that flurry of lies. This is a guy that says the Biden administration is not lying to the public about the border. They go to the White House briefing room every day. They say the border's secure. They are lying to you. We know that that's not true. Gavin Newsom is lying to you when he says somehow I supported these things, which I didn't do. He's also lying to you about what it's going to take to solve this problem. California is a sanctuary state. They thumb their nose at federal immigration law, and this has real consequences. There was an illegal alien, Herbert Nixon Flores, who was in L.A., in custody. He was a repeat criminal. ICE wanted to take him into custody because then they would be able to deport him. L.A. refuses to work with ICE, and so they wouldn't turn him over. They end up releasing him on the street. He ends up murdering the mother of a 3-year-old little girl. Those policies are deadly. They do not work. And I'll tell you this. The Martha's Vineyard transport, Martha's Vineyard said it was a sanctuary jurisdiction. Kind of reminds me about Gavin Newsom when he restricted Californians, then he went to the French Laundry. These liberal elites, they like to impose burdens on you. They don't want to have to face the consequences of their actions. So we've got a lot of elites who want open borders, who lecture everybody else about it. Then the minute they have to deal with any of the consequences, oh man, all hell breaks loose.
How about the consequences of
We're moving to the next question.
We'd be much better
on the
off
same
if
topic.
that were the case.
On the same topic, this is important. This is a very important question. While some migrants I know want to come to America for a better life for themselves and their family, find the American dream, I totally sympathize with them. Many good people fleeing very bad situations abroad. But others are abusing the asylum process, and in the process, in search of where they're coming from, we're now learning that many are coming from some of our top geopolitical foes, countries with little to no vetting, or people that are coming in. They're not being vetted. Look at these numbers. Between October 2021, October 2023, border agents encountered 6,386 nationals from Afghanistan, 3,153 from Egypt, 659 from Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, 538 from Syria, 12,605 from Russia, and a whopping 26,113 from China. Now, my question, the next question goes to you, Governor Newsom. What are the odds that Biden's open borders have allowed terrorists and terror cells unvetted into this country. Is that a clear and present danger to every American?
The odds are 100%. Of course our enemies are going to take advantage of this. He opened the border. He's not. He's violating his oath of office to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. He's knowingly having 8 million come in. And yes, there's criminal aliens. There are terrorists. There's a lot of fentanyl. That we've had tens of thousands of fentanyl deaths. I've met a lot of angel parents who have lost kids to fentanyl overdose, and the problem is, you'll have a college kid that may take some pill not knowing that there's fentanyl in it, and then right there that can be fatal. They're poisoning our people, and Joe Biden is sitting on his hands. He refuses to take care of the border. He refuses to hold the drug cartels accountable. This is the vision of Biden, Harris, Newsom. Open borders, Americans suffer, and Americans continue to die because of fentanyl overdose. There will be, unfortunately, a terrorist attack at some point that we'll be able to trace back to our southern border.
God forbid. By the way, do you see that risk, Governor Newsom?
Hold on.
Governor, do you see the risk?
Joe Biden put out not only a comprehensive plan, he consistently puts up plans. Hold on, no, but Sean,
is there a risk?
I'm going to answer your question. I support border security. I think the asylum system is broken. I believe that we need.
I understand that.
I'm the only guy here that's a border state governor. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump. And by the way, how's that going for you,
right about that.
Ron? You're down 41 points in your own home state.
That's a jab.
On the issue of
smile
immigration,
harder, Ron.
Joe Biden put a $14 billion immigration package up in front of Congress, 2,300 border agents, as well as custom officials, 1,000 new law enforcement officers to deal with the fentanyl issue. And by the way, that's a major issue in your state, 41% higher overdose rates than the state of California. And here's what I haven't heard, not a peep from Ron Desantis. They want to demagogue this issue. You want to play politics with issues. You don't want to solve this issue. Why don't you lead your party and support that $14 billion package?
Hold on. I have a follow-up. Governor Newsom, I appreciate your answer. You have mentioned comprehensive immigration reform many times. It's not happened under Joe Biden. I don't think it's going to happen next year.
He put a detailed plan in. Republicans in Congress refused to act on it.
Let me finish my
Congress
question.
to work with this
administration. My question was, with all of these millions and millions of people coming into this country unvetted, the question was and remains, is this a clear and present danger from the countries I put up on the screen? Is that a clear and present danger to America? And what do you do in the interim before you can have?
That's why the President of the United States put a $14 billion package in front of Congress they can act on today.
And what would that?
They haven't done anything in 2 years,
do?
this Congress.
What do you
Literally
support?
not a single piece
of
legislation. I support the $14 billion package President's put forward that includes 2,300 border agents and customs officials. By the way, also includes $850 million in new technology for border security. You hear nothing from Ron DeSantis. You hear nothing, Sean, respectfully. You hear nothing from the Republican Party. They play politics.
I'm almost out of time.
The President put the plan up to address the anxiety.
Let me ask the question
pretty strong here. I got to be honest.
Does it worry you that our top geopolitical foes, the number one state sponsor of terror, Iran, China, Russia, Afghanistan, Syria, that they're at our southern border? You're a border state governor. Does that concern you at all?
Why else would I have put the answer is yes. Why else would I put the National Guard? Why would I have just increased it by 50% on the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in my state? I mean, this guy has no record. The fact that you supported amnesty, the fact you supported Obama's reforms, those are facts. They're just simple facts. The fact that your greatest contribution, Ron, to this debate is shooting people with backpacks.
I don't mind.
That's so inhumane.
I don't mind him lying to me. I don't mind Gavin lying to me, but I do mind him lying to you. He is sitting there saying that Joe Biden is willing to solve this problem. Is there anybody out there that actually believes this? Joe Biden created this problem. So if he's willing to lie to you about that, you know he's lying to you about all these other facts and figures, about all this other stuff. He's just throwing stuff out to see what sticks against the wall. This is a slick, slippery politician whose state is failing, people are leaving his state, and he's trying to run interference for his failure.
We've got to take our second break.
That's true.
When we come back, we have a lot more ground to cover. Quick break. We have a lot of ground to cover. More with Governors Desantis and Newsom, the great blue-red state debate, as we continue.
Listen, friends, I'm not going to try and opine on something I don't know much about. I think that all of us, I'm not aware of anyone who wants people who want to do ill will to other people coming through any border anywhere, including the southern border. I think that that Newsom was definitely stronger here on what he was saying. I was trying to fact check his claims about Desantis supporting amnesty and supporting some bills. I couldn't find anything either way that was available. One thing I wanted to mention that was important that I am now, I looked up immigration encounters at the border, like historically. They've been at record highs under people like Bush. They've been at record lows under people like Obama. They were at record highs again under Trump in 2016, and now they're at record highs again under Biden. So I just don't think this is like nearly as political as we think it is. Meaning, I really don't think that one party wants open borders and the other one does not. It seems like to me the amount of encounters that we're having at the border does not give one shit who's actually in office. And again, I just did a couple Google searches to kind of look up some of the data from those years on like government websites. So I think that's something to be noted here. Like this idea that Democrats want open borders to destroy America, I think really is ridiculous. I think that, though, in my experience, it seems like, and it's tough because Joe Biden's come under flack, rightfully so, by immigration groups for him being pretty much a continuation of some of Trump's policies when it comes to separating families at the border, etc. So I don't know if this is nearly as polarized as we think. I think that a lot of us, maybe watching this stream or listening to it later on, really want to think about how do we fix our immigration system so people who are seeking asylum actually get asylum, and also how do we get people on a path to citizenship who are coming, who want to become citizens. Like I think that's a great thing. I would have to imagine though that it's way more complicated than how we're talking about it if it's been like 20 something years and we haven't really fixed the issue. So yeah, that would be interesting, I think, to kind of see how that kind of plays out. But it is a very strong point that is always reiterated by like the Fox Newses and Sean Hannity's of the world. My guess is that tomorrow Sean Hannity is going to go on his show and just try and obliterate all of Newsom's talking points and showing how misleading he is. So I give Newsom credit for even being willing to come on really into quote unquote enemy territory politically and say, yeah, I'll have a debate with Sean freaking Hannity, trying to moderate. So Carol has said this twice now, that Gavin Newsom is gaslighting us all. Carol, that definitely could be the case. I mean, politicians in general are slippery, but obviously we're going off of what we can find during this debate. And I think that overall, in this particular segment on immigration, I'm not sure about how you friends feel, but I feel like Gavin got the better of those two exchanges for sure. And also, Gavin is a border state, right? So I do feel like DeSantis is just kind of playing that political card of like, they want open borders. It's kind of like when they push the Democrats want to kill kids up to the moment of birth, and it's like no one is actually talking about that. Like third trimester abortions are incredibly rare, etc. It feels kind of like that in this case, where it's like, yeah, I'm not sure if anyone wants open borders. I think that we have different approaches, but I do think that for whatever reason, we have not been able to get comprehensive immigration reform passed, and we really need to, because a lot of people, especially people who are in need, maybe fleeing really volatile situations in their own countries or are looking for a better path forward, etc., are coming here and getting turned away, or some of them are so desperate they're literally trying to cross, rivers. In fact, in Texas with Greg Abbott, he put up razor wire and these like massive buoys with saws in between them to deter people from coming over, and some of them got seriously hurt. Like a little girl died from heat exhaustion. So it just seems kind of cruel to me. Instead of treating it as a human crisis or a humanitarian issue, it seems to me to be more of like a politics game for people that I've seen more in right-wing spaces. But that being said, that's just my perspective. And like I've said many times now, I fully admit that I am biased here. I'm not a fan of DeSantis. Although, I mean, I can't say I'm like a diehard Gavin guy either. I'm just looking at I'm looking at it as we kind of go through it together. All right, let's get back into it.
With Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor Ron DeSantis. Again, thank you both for being here. We're going to take a little breathing room. I don't mind the debate taking on a life of its own, but let each other breathe. I don't want to be the hall monitor. Please don't turn me into that. Anyway, let's look at the issue of crime. FBI numbers violent crime nationally for each of your states. Keep in mind, this statistic shows what is the combined rate of homicide, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, the year 2022. On the national level, the rate was 380.7 offenses per 100,000 people. In California, meanwhile, the rate was much higher, 499.5 offenses per 100,000. In Florida, lower, 258.9 offenses per 100,000. Governor Newsom, let me start with you. Your numbers are way higher than the national average. How do you explain that when safety and security, I would argue, is a prerequisite for the pursuit of happiness?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. We're near 50-year lows, down 55% violent crimes in the state of California from the 1990s. And I want to compare and contrast that with the issue in Florida that you didn't mention, and that's the murder rate. And let's broaden it more broadly. The issue is 7 of the top 10.
Those numbers were part of the murder rate. 7
of the top 10 murder rates in the United States of America are red states. He has a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California. He has a higher murder rate. Go to places like Jacksonville. Go to places like Orlando. Go to places like Tampa. The murder rate's off the charts compared to cities like San Francisco. And you know what? Even more egregiously, Sean, and I think this is important, the American people deserve an answer from you, Ron. You had one of the worst mass shootings in American history, Parkland. Ooh. 17 kids were gunned down, lives lost, 17 others, lives torn asunder. You had a young girl by the name of Jamie Gutenberg, whose father pleaded with you to do something about it. And you know what you did? You did the exact opposite. You made it easier for felons to get guns without background checks, without any training. These people pleaded with you, the parents and the families, to get tough on gun safety. And again, you made it easier for felons. He said of you, Ron, and I agree with him, after you signed that concealed carry bill, which increases the likelihood, Fred Gutenberg said, of more Jamies losing their lives and more Parklands, he called you weak, pathetic, and small. So with respect, I appreciate you're talking to police officers in the state of California. You may want to spend a little bit more time, not on the Ohio Trail and other places across this country. You may spend a little more time back in your home state and address the murder and gun violence in your own backyard.
So this is the slick politician. You put up the rates. He has 500 per 100,000. Florida is 250. So that's almost twice as much. And he's trying to spin that to say California's doing good. People are leaving California in droves, largely because public safety has collapsed. They have, I mean, you go, when Californians come to Florida, one of the things they'll say, it's almost like an out-of-body experience. They can go to the store, get toothpaste off the shelf, pay for it, and leave, because in a lot of these places in California, everything's under lock and key because they've basically legalized retail theft. They have chosen in California to put the interests of the criminals over public safety. They treat they're easier on sex offenders. They're easier on all these crimes that are leading to a collapse in the quality of life.
You guys know?
And if you just walk around San Francisco, you will see, and I think it's interesting, Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco. So he took the San Francisco model, turned that into a template for California's collapse. Now the left wants to take the California model and use that as a template for America's collapse.
What year they're talking about crime?
Governor, I got a follow-up question.
You brought up Jacksonville, Florida, compared to San Francisco, is 126% higher.
Governor, let me bring up
it's 84%
the next question
higher.
dovetails
in Tampa,
into this.
It's 75% higher.
Let me also say,
what are you talking about when it comes to this?
I know you like to jabber.
By the way, those are all easily
oh boy,
to lie.
Anytime you're uncomfortable,
he put the statistics up there.
Those are all
your crime is higher. We know your crime's higher.
Gentlemen,
what are you
I'm going to move on.
Gun murder rate in your state.
We'll let the audience look at the numbers, the FBI numbers, and decide. According to the gun control advocacy group, every town for gun safety. Okay. California has the most, as you support, I know, Governor, restrictive gun laws in the United States. Yes. Florida has the 19th most restrictive. Yet, if you look at the year 2019, when each of you took office, California has had 21 mass shootings. Florida has had 9. Now, that is according to a USA Today, AP, Northeastern University database data. Keep in mind, a mass killing is defined as the intentional killing of 4 or more victims, excluding the deaths of unborn children and the offenders by any means within a 24 period of time. I believe, Governor Desantis, you get this first.
What California wants to do is they want to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to defend themselves. Then they go easy on the criminals who are perpetrating the crime. They don't stand up for the men and women of law enforcement. That's why a lot of people have left the state, because they don't get the support from the communities that they need. And, Gavin told another lie. He said we made it easier for felons to do. Felons are not allowed to possess firearms. That's federal law. That's been long-standing.
No background checks.
That is an absolute lie that he's saying like that. That has nothing to do with buying or purchasing a weapon. So that's just a lie, another lie that's coming up. But here's the thing. People are leaving California in droves because he has failed to stand up for public safety. They are on an ideological joyride to let people out of prison early, to go easy on them. Heck, your buddy, Gavin's buddy in Los Angeles, Gascon, he doesn't even prosecute. When I was in Southern California for the Reagan debate, a lot of the women tell me they have to take off all their jewelry just to be able to go shopping, because otherwise they're going to get mugged. That is the reality that people are facing in California. Gavin can try to put lipstick on that pig, but the fact of the matter is he has failed the people of California.
Governor Newsom.
I love this guy talking about backing the blue when you dangled pardons for January 6 insurrectionists, 85 of them that were charged with attacking law enforcement. You talk a big game about backing the blue. With all due respect to the crime rate, again, he's not answering the fact that he has a higher murder rate than the state of California, a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California. And I can easily answer this point. Gun safety saves lives. I don't think it, I know it. And the data bears that out in the state of California. California proudly does lead in terms of common sense gun safety. Common sense gun safety saves lives. You had the chance to do something meaningful. You had a chance to do something on behalf of those Parkland families. You did the exact opposite. You moved in the exact opposite direction. With all due respect, look at your own backyard, Ron.
So
You're not mining your backyard on this issue.
I will do that because we have we had two radical left Soros district attorneys, like your buddy Gascon in LA, one in Tampa, one in Orlando. They were endangering the public, and I removed them from their posts. Gavin Newsom has not lifted a finger to rein in Gascon in LA. That city has collapsed. That county's collapsed because he is not enforcing the law. So that's just the and here's the thing. This is what's happening. That California model, that's been done in Philadelphia, Baltimore, all
15 seconds. We got to go break.
Come on. I mean, you're running for president of the United States. You're talking down the great state of California. You're talking down one of the great American cities, Los Angeles. That's insulting. And you're doing it because you're trying to obfuscate the facts that you have a higher murder rate in the state of Florida and the state of California.
We got to
some
take
of
a
the
break.
lowest crime rates we've had in 50 years.
We'll have more with Governor Desantis, Governor Gavin Newsom on the other side as we continue the great state debate, blue versus red.
So this is very interesting, friends, because it depends on how you look at the data. So like here I am, right? Oh, sorry, wrong screen. Let me get this back over here. There we go. Can you guys see that okay? A little bit, hopefully. Sorry, I'm making this work. So this is gun deaths per capita by state. This is current. This is wisevoter.com. So you see here, it's 8.5 per 100,000 compared to 13.7, okay, per 100,000. However, when it comes to actual like gun deaths right now, like the most states with most gun deaths, Texas has the most gun deaths in the U.S., followed by California, and then Florida. I think the difference, though, is that those gun deaths are not accounting for the population size difference, right? So when you do it per 100,000, you actually have a higher gun death rate overall. But to be very fair, California does have the highest amount of mass shootings. I mean, I looked at this like twice from different places. Where did I find it? Is it mass shootings in 2023? No, it wasn't here. Where was it? So here it is in 1982. Here's a graph from Statistica.com. California has 26, according to this. So again, I think it's very interesting to see how they're navigating this. It is. Oh boy, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because again, like stats and data, you can manipulate data to really say almost whatever you want, or to kind of skew things in your favor. Like, is there a reason why Sean picked the year 2022 and not year 2021, or why he picked 2019 instead of 2020? It's hard to know. I will tell you that in New Jersey, we have some of the lowest gun death rates and mass shootings, and we have the second highest, strictest gun laws in the U.S. Now, I am a big believer, like I said, friends, many times, I am biased here, so I'm not trying to pretend that I am someone who doesn't have opinions about stuff. I absolutely do. I'm a big believer that, yes, gun control absolutely does save lives, and actually I think the data does bear that out, to Gavin's point. Also, though, one of the problems, right, is when you have maybe one location that has strict gun control, but the town over doesn't, of course that's not going to work. You need to have laws that are consistent. I mean, it doesn't make sense when you're like, well, Chicago has the strictest gun laws, yet there's so many deaths. Yeah, because all around Illinois, you can buy a gun without a problem, for example. And I do think that there are, actually, not that I think, I know that there are links between poverty and violence. There's a lot of other things that go into why certain areas have higher rates of death and gun violence than just, well, this is a state, it's red, therefore this, or it's blue, therefore this. There's poverty to take into account. There's culture to take into account, all kinds of stuff. And there are data and stats done on that for sure that link violent crime to those things. So I think that's very interesting to watch. But anyway, this has been a very interesting debate so far. We're about halfway through. This thing goes to 11 p.m. And here I am, friends, with you hanging out. And I appreciate all of you hanging out. I say this all the time, but going live on YouTube and watching these debates with people and reading comments, I don't feel alone while I'm doing that, and I love that. So thank you. We are a nonprofit organization. We do this work paywall free. If you want to support the show, you can click a super chat, or you can click on the link in our show notes and donate. Hey, good news. All donations made in the U.S. are tax deductible because we're a 501c3 nonprofit. So it makes all this work possible. So thank you so much for your donations and for your support. It keeps everything paywall free and accessible. If you don't know who we are, we have an Instagram account, we have a podcast, we do YouTube stuff. We are all over the place, so please take a look for sure. All right, Ryan says, I still feel like comparing California and Florida isn't exactly comparing apples to apples. The states have existed far longer than the governors have been in office. I agree, Ryan, for sure. I was just pulling up some data to kind of give us some kind of perspective here. And again, like we've said, one person is not usually responsible for like how a whole state behaves in every single category. To be fair, governors only have so much power. That's by design. Presidents only have so much power. That's by design. And Carol, I'm not sure if you're listening, but I did say earlier that yes, while Chicago has strict gun laws, all the towns around it, like Illinois, the state, does not. So it's very easy to traffic guns into Chicago because all you have to do is buy a gun in a place where you can get one and then bring it in. So it has to work like an interlocking system. If there's a gap somewhere, you're going to have a problem. So I understand it's a very convenient talking point, especially for maybe more of the Republican side of things. But when you really think about what's going on and how the system's designed, I'm not surprised that it happens. And again, look at the poverty rates too. There's always a connection there. So it's broader and more complicated than just Democrats, more gun violence, or vice versa. It's just more complicated. The problem is that in our society, we want we want quick points. We want little clickbait headlines. We want little jabs to say, well, no, this is the fact. But life is always more complicated than just, one thing's responsible for it. All right, we're back. Let's go. Here we go.
In especially the lower grades, should schools, and maybe all grades, should schools be focusing on reading, writing, math, science, history, computers?
Which they are.
And maybe leaving values, considering parents might have different values than teachers at school, to the parents, to religious institutions, or is it the role of the school?
What is the church?
The role of the school is to educate kids, not indoctrinate kids.
Oh,
it's not
to
impose an agenda. It's to do the basics. And what we've said in Florida is it's inappropriate to tell a kindergartner that their gender is a choice. It's inappropriate to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body. Now, California has that. They want to have that injected into the elementary school. My wife and I have a 7-5 and a 3-year-old. We don't think that that's appropriate. And I know most parents do not think it's appropriate. It's also important to respect parental rights to know what curriculum is being used in the classroom, and everything should be
unless your
age-appropriate.
kid's trans,
I actually
then
have
you have
something
no
that
rights.
I brought that some parents have objected to. So this is a book that's in some of the schools in California. In Florida, this is not consistent with our standards, called Gender Queer. Some of it's blacked out. You would not probably be able to put this on air. This is pornography. It's cartoons. It's aimed at children, and it's wrong. So this should not be in schools.
Fact check this one.
When people like on the left say that somehow you're banning books by removing this, from a young kid's classroom, no, this is not age appropriate. And so we're going to stand for the rights of parents. I think we need to do that nationwide. I don't think you can have a situation where some states just trample on the rights of parents. Parents have a fundamental right to direct the education and upbringing of their kids.
I mean, by the way, you've been on a banning bench. 1,406 books have been banned just last year under Ron DeSantis' leadership. I love that he keeps pulling this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over the campaign trail. What's wrong with Toni Morrison's books?
It's not banned.
What's wrong? It's not true.
Not.
What's wrong with Amanda Gorman's?
It's not banned.
And the poetry? 1,406. 1,406 books have been banned on your banning bench in the state of Florida. As it relates to parental rights, come on, California, it's in our Constitution, parental engagement. It's called the LCFF process. We actually require parental engagement on curriculum development. And we don't, complete lie, we don't require K through third grade sexual education. That doesn't happen until middle school. What you're doing is using education as a sword for your cultural purge.
I agree.
And you know what? With all due respect, you know, I remember in the 1970s, we had a bill called the Briggs Initiative.
Glad you're here, Robert. Make sure you subscribe.
So offended by the Briggs Initiative, which was the original Don't Say Gay bill. In that case, it was not allowing teachers that happened to be gay to teach. And Reagan had the courage to stand up, and he said, you can't catch gay like you can measles. I don't like the way you demean people. I don't like the way you demean the LGBTQ community. I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron. I really find this fundamentally offensive. And this is a core value that distinguishes the values of my state and, frankly, the vast majority of Americans against the weaponization of education and the purging that he's advancing.
I have a follow-up question for you, though. And by the way, first, Governor, yes or no, are the book banning issues, is that not a state issue? Is that a state issue or a local issue?
Local, and he's
okay. That's all I want to know.
The home book wasn't
but
there.
Here's the question I have.
1,400
Here's the question I have for you, Governor Newsom. Some of the books you're talking about, one is called, the governor just brought it up, it's called Gender Queer, a memoir. Explicit pornographic book showing sex acts. Another, Flamer, graphic book about young boys performing sex acts at summer camp. This book is Gay, a book containing instructions on the ins and outs of gay sexuality. Let me finish.
It's called Sex Ed.
Let's Talk About It, a book that contains graphic descriptions about how to masturbate for males and females. My question to you, Governor Newsom, those books, do you believe that's appropriate for school districts to teach kids, yes or no?
Come on, those aren't it's not part of the curriculum. They're not teaching
those
kids
are those are books that were in school.
Hold on. The bottom line is you are on a book banning binge, your state.
Oh, Gavin, don't do this. You look weak.
1,406 books, 3,362 in this country.
You didn't answer. What about those
books?
That's not, we don't provide for K through third grade education, that kind of curriculum. It's just made up. These guys make it up. It's part of this cultural purge.
Should it be?
Just a
what grade would it be acceptable?
What I find offensive,
High
Sean
school?
and Ron, what I find offensive is a very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. A significant number of these books happen to be about African Americans.
Do you think it's
honestly find it offensive? I told you, we don't teach that. We don't teach that. We have sex education in middle schools and high schools where it's appropriate. This is a ginned up, made up issue to divide this country. You talk about dividing this country. This is part of the culture war, the weaponization of grievance. This is part using education. We're focusing on math, science. We're focusing on reimagining our school system.
We're going to get to education
He's criminalizing teachers and criminalizing librarians that check out the wrong book.
The schools to impose a liberal agenda, social justice. They have this ethnic studies where they're dividing people. That's what they're doing. But let me just say something about parents' rights, because he says California respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. In California, if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, your minor child can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
These kids
that is an assault on parents' rights.
You know what? Ron,
it's not for you to decide. It's for the parents to decide. And the parents do not want their kids going to these other things.
Let me go to a follow-up. Let me stay on a follow-up. Let's turn to the issue of education.
Where's your decency and humanity and grace when it comes to
these things? Ripping somebody away
gentlemen, please. Nobody can hear you.
That is wrong. That is wrong.
I'll tell you.
All right.
That should not stand in this country.
Let us turn, gentlemen, if I may, to the issue of education. Here is public school spending per K through 12 students, according to the Education Data Initiative from the U.S. Census Bureau and National Center for Education. Florida spends nearly $12,000 per student, while California spends over $16,000. Florida is ranked #1 by U.S. News & World Report. In terms of state education rankings, California ranks 20th. Governor Newsom, what is your explanation? You spend more money and they have better results in Florida. Why?
I told you what I'm doing in public education. We created a brand new grade, pre-K for all. We're doing after school and summer school for all. We're reimagining the school day, not just the school year. We just provided 3.4 million of our students upwards of $2 billion for child savings accounts and the opportunity to start businesses when they graduate. We have one of the best records under COVID, during COVID. And again, you didn't answer to the fact you had more learning loss. Ron DeSantis had more learning loss during COVID. 4th grade reading, 4th grade math, 8th grade reading, 8th grade math. We outperformed you in it's a fact during COVID in every one of those categories. I can't wait to get all the PolitiFacts tonight because, Ron, you keep denying some basic fundamental facts on health, wealth, and education. We outperformed you during COVID. You talk about things to apologize. You should apologize for your COVID record. You were with Fauci. You aligned with vaccines. You aligned with CDC guidelines until you didn't, and tens of thousands of people died.
Let's return our focus to education.
Well, when we opened the schools, we bucked all of those people June of 2020. He kept the schools closed for a long time, and that had devastating impacts. And why? What Gavin Newsom does in California is kowtow to the teachers union. Whatever they tell him to do, he does. He will never balk the teachers union. That's why the kids were locked out of school for so long. Joe Biden is in the pocket of the teachers union, and so is Kamala Harris. That's why they fought school openings when he came in there. When they had that in there.
It's Kamala
Biden came into office and he brought in the teacher union to be able to do
Stop
all these different things to try to keep the schools closed. So the Democratic Party, the far left in this country, they are owned lock, stock, and barrel by the teachers union. I beat the teachers union in Florida to get the schools open, first in the country during COVID, also to do universal school choice. Every parent in Florida has a right to send their kid to the school of their choice. We're winning these fights. California is bending the knee to the union because they control the politicians.
All right, let's move on. A topic that will seemingly play a very large role in the future elections, and it's the issue of abortion. Yes. I have a question for both of you.
Oh, boy.
I'll ask you to please respect the individual's right to answer uninterrupted. And that is Governor DeSantis. I think it's actually your turn, Governor Newsom, if you don't mind.
All good.
Most medical professionals believe a baby is viable outside of a mother's womb by between 24 and 26 weeks. That is the general scientific consensus. It changes. There are some variations on it. Abortion is legal in your state, quote, up to viability, is my understanding, unless the mother's health is in danger. Right. I'd like to get you on the record. You've been unwilling to answer this question. Should there be any restrictions on the issue of abortion that you support at all? Because funding in California, you have allocated in your budget $265 million for abortion last year alone. My question, very specific. Do you support any restrictions at all on abortion, especially in months 7, 8, and 9, past viability?
I'm going to answer that question, but let's talk about the issue of abortion. Let's talk about the issue of abortion.
You going to answer it?
I'm going to answer that
come
question.
Come on, Gavin, just answer the freaking question, bro.
But I think this is important, and it bears repeating. Ron DeSantis signed the most extreme anti-abortion bills in America. He signed a bill banning any exceptions for rape and incest. And then he said it didn't go far enough and decided to sign a 6-week ban before women even know they're pregnant, Ron, before women can even access a doctor's appointment. So extreme is your ban that criminalizes women and criminalizes doctors that even Donald Trump said it was too extreme. On the issue of the extreme exception that you highlight as it relates to the issue of later term abortion, it's almost always because of a fetal anomaly, the life of the mother.
Yeah,
and in
that's
those
true.
rare cases, I trust,
rare.
and answer your question,
It's like
I
less than
trust the
1%
mother
of all
and her
abortions
doctor to
happen
make
in the
that
third
decision.
So in other words, I want to be clear on this. If a woman and her doctor, for any reason,
Not for any reason.
No.
It's
I'm asking.
extremely rare.
Should there
this
be?
Is a, I know where you guys are going, Sean. You're even uncomfortable
asking,
with this whole issue. And I understand this is where you guys have to go to cover for the extreme anti-abortion agenda of Ron DeSantis.
Should there be?
Who's hurt your party.
Would you support a ban on abortion in 7th, 8th, or 9th month if the mother's life is not in jeopardy?
Extreme exception. People aren't going on and having abortions.
Should it be illegal then?
Unless something devastating has happened.
Should it be illegal?
It should be up to the mother and her doctor and her conscience. And it
so
almost
the answer is
always,
no restriction.
I've already answered it, and I'll just reinforce it. To cover up, again, hold on, for the most extreme abortion ban in the country. I have a simple question, though. This is important.
No. I'm asking the question.
Ron DeSantis, will you or will you not sign a 6-week ban in the unlikely case you become president of the United States? Would you sign a national ban?
Let's talk about your state.
Answer that. He's getting saved
you had 15
on that
weeks.
Fundamental question.
You had a 15-week rule in California. You reduced it to 6. My question is this. What was your thinking behind it? Was it for religious reasons? Was it for scientific reasons? What was the reason for you
from
going
really
from
biased.
15 weeks
this
to 6
whole
weeks?
thing's been so crazy.
Well, I believe in a culture of life. I think we're better off when everybody counts, when everybody has an opportunity to do well, and that bill attaches when there's a detectable heartbeat for the child. And some states have done that. Some states have done others. Some states have done later. And obviously, they have a right to do that. But I think about one of our Floridians, a lady named Penny Hopper.
Seriously,
she actually survived a late-term abortion back in the day, and they left her on the table there to basically wither away. Her grandmother came, saved her, brought her to a hospital, saved her, and she ended up living a good life. So she counts and she matters. And I think that what the position that we have from the modern left, including in California, is that they will take your tax dollars and they will fund abortion all the way to the moment of birth. He's wrong when he says the later terms are all because of this. 88% past 15 weeks are in fact elective from the Florida data. He doesn't keep data there. But that is really extreme to take your tax dollars and to do this all the way up to the moment of birth. He didn't answer your question about any type of protections at all for a baby that has a beating heart, that can feel pain, that is viable.
All right. Hold on.
Respectfully, this is an important conversation. Will you or will you not support
you didn't
a national
answer Sean. Why didn't you answer
will you
his
or will you
question?
not support a national ban if it lands on your desk?
Friends,
you
they're going at it.
That in any other context.
Okay,
answer it tonight. It's a
we're
simple
moving
yes,
on
no.
to
By
the
way,
next issue.
Hey, no, Sean, not a
You
next
never
issue.
gave a
The
week.
American people should know this. I'll answer it for Ron DeSantis. He can't answer it. He will sign that extreme 6-week
let me move
national
on.
ban. The American people should know that.
I'm calling this the lightning round. It'd be great if you guys cooperated. I'm not a potted plant here. I want to ask you, we all know that federal policy does have a huge impact on states. We know that. I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions, and I just want one-word answers, okay, from 3 of you, because we're coming up on a break. And the issue is right now Joe Biden is president.
Yep.
So I would like both of you to give a grade to Joe Biden overall as president. Governor Newsom, I'll give A.
An A, absolutely.
Governor
I think it's been a
DeSantis.
master
Failed.
And a failure. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's your
Now,
campaign
number 2,
president.
are his policies helping or hurting your individual states? Is it helping the state of Florida?
The inflation is hurting our state big time.
Grade.
Fail. He failed.
Yeah.
He's failed on the economy.
The guy just took
Is it
$28
helping the
million
state of
from the
California?
Science and Tech Act. Thank you, Joe Biden. It's absolutely accelerating our dominance in manufacturing, accelerating our revitalization
Okay,
of our
that was a
state.
simple
The answer
answer.
Is unequivocally,
Lastly,
absolutely yes.
Okay, I will ask you, Governor DeSantis. I have played over and over again, and Governor Newsom, you have seen over and over again. Joe Biden is experienced what I believe to be significant cognitive decline.
Oh my God!
And in other words, it's the
Have
toughest
you
job
heard
in the
Trump
world.
talk recently on Truth
Is Joe
Social?
Biden experiencing this cognitive decline? Is it a danger to the country? Do you find when he speaks, what is your reaction to it?
Yes, he's in decline. Yes, it's a danger to the country. He has no business running for president. And, you know, Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that, but that's why he's running his shadow campaign. He should not be running. He is not up to the job, and it is dangerous for this country.
Well, I will take Joe Biden at 100 versus Ron DeSantis any day of the week at any age. In fact, all of the folks
you think he's up to the job? You think he's 100%?
I've been spending plenty of time with Joe Biden in private and public. You don't know. And by the way, results matter. Inflation now is down to 3.2%. Wages are up to 4.4%. The economy is booming, 5.2% GDP growth in the last quarter. Those are facts you don't hear on Fox News. 14 million jobs, 10 times more
Let me
than the
move
last
on. That was the lightning
Republican
round. Now, on March 31st, 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson famously said, "I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president." Now, despite being an incumbent president who is eligible to run for re-election, Governor Newsom, I've interviewed you twice on this issue. You say you are not running for president in 2024. In fact, you recently said, quote, you think that Vice President Harris is naturally the one lined up to run for president if Joe Biden were to bow out. Governor Newsom, tonight I ask you, will you make an LBJ-like statement? And Governor DeSantis, you say he's running a shadow campaign. In your response, I would like you to answer that. Will you say unequivocally, under no circumstances are you running?
Correct. I've said, I don't know how many times I can say it, just making this stuff up about a shadow campaign.
If at the DNC convention they come and ask you, will you run, what will you say?
Joe Biden will be our nominee in a matter of weeks. And in a matter of weeks, Sean, he'll be endorsing Donald Trump as a nominee for the Republican Party.
If they come to you at the DNC and Joe is incapable of running and they ask you, are you a hard no?
It's not even optional. He's doing fantastically. I appreciate and respect the work the president's doing and the vice president's, the Biden-Harris campaign and team. So absolutely unequivocally, I look forward to continuing to support their efforts. President Biden will be reelected.
This is clear. That's good to know.
I think what he's saying should color every single thing. I mean, I've called him on a lot of the lies, but he says Joe Biden is 100% up to the job. You know that that's not true. Anybody that can look, he wants you to believe him over your own lying eyes. When he says the economy is so great, how great is it when you're going to the grocery store now? How great is it when you're trying to afford a home? How are those interest rates doing? What about affording a new car? So we have to get real here. We have to understand that Biden is not up to job. But here's I think the problem. What Biden would do, the people around him, they would look to California for the model to go forward in the next 4 years. That would accelerate the decline of this country. Yeah. Freedom is what works. The failures need to be left in the dustbin of history.
Yeah, tell about freedom to women that you're trying to criminalize in your state. And
all right, we're retreating to old ground. For years,
this notion of freedom,
gentlemen,
Florida is not a state of freedom.
One of the things I wanted to accomplish here is the policies that you both implement.
You guys hanging in there? How we doing?
On the citizens of your individual states.
Give this video a like.
For years, a gallon of gasoline, Governor Newsom in California, has been notably higher in your state than in the state of Florida.
That's right.
Here are the numbers, by the way, recent numbers. The average cost for a gallon of gas nationwide, just over $3.24. In Florida, $3.17. In California, it is a whopping $4.85. So, Governor Newsom, I ask you, you've also sued big oil companies, alleging executives have deceived the public about the health of our planet, knowing that it's a polluter. If your lawsuit is successful, that would likely mean higher gas prices, even higher gas prices for everybody. Here's my question, though. Could you name right now one source of energy that you can bring online in the next 3 to 6 months that would be as inexpensive for the people in this country as fossil fuels?
Well, let me touch.
Can you think of that energy?
Let me touch on I'm going to get to your question, and then let me touch the latter part of your question. Let me give the first part of the question.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. Since the 1980s, Republican administrations, Democratic administrations have experienced, under their stewardship, experienced higher gas prices in the state of California. We've been ripped off by big oil. We continue to be ripped off by big oil.
Interesting.
Big oil now has met a new foe, and that's the state of California, the most aggressive anti-gouging law in America, more transparency being required than any time in America. And yes, we're suing the industry responsible for this climate crisis. By the way, the same climate crisis that Ron DeSantis celebrated as human-caused, who campaigned for a fracking ban, who campaigned to oppose offshore oil drilling, and then 2 days after he got elected, signed an executive order. By the way, Nikki Haley had you dead to right on this, Ron.
Dude,
sign an
answer the
executive
freaking
order
question,
doubling down,
Gavin.
saying you're adamantly
Jesus.
opposed to fracking, adamantly opposed to offshore oil drilling. You were celebrated by the Sierra Club for that action until you weren't. Once again, it shows the hypocrisy of Ron DeSantis. Now you're running away from climate change as things have gotten worse. Hurricanes, wildfires, droughts, and floods. $179 billion of weather-related disasters. And he has no response except talking points from big oil.
Governor Newsom.
That was a mouthful. Again, just more lies. But here's the thing: California is the only one that oil companies are gouging. Why aren't they doing that to Georgia or Florida or these other states that have lower gas prices? Because of their policies. That's why people are paying more there. What Gavin Newsom wants to do, what he's doing in California, what Biden wants to do nationally, is government-dictated green energy policies. They want to kneecap fossil fuels and reliable energy. We've already seen what's happened in California. They have rolling blackouts. He actually implemented a mandate to buy electric vehicles. So pretty soon in California, you're not going to be able to buy a normal car, only electric vehicles. And they celebrated that as like a great thing. A couple days later, there was a notice from the state government telling all EV owners, do not plug in your EV because they don't have enough grid capacity. So he is walking his people into a big-time disaster. What Biden wants to do is he wants to take the California model. He wants to impose that nationally. He wants to take away your ability to purchase the car that you want. He wants to kneecap reliable energy. And he wants to bring these rolling blackouts all across the United States of America. It doesn't work. It's going to cause huge problems. We have more energy here. We can be the dominant energy producer in the world.
Florida,
and that's what we're going to do. Florida is not a big energy state. We have the Marcellus Shale. We have the West Texas. We have all of that. So let's do that. No forcing electric vehicles.
We got to take a break.
Save the American automobile.
When we come back, we'll continue the great state, red state, blue state debate. More with Governor Ron DeSantis, more with Governor Gavin Newsom.
Jeez, how we doing? I mean, guys, it's 10:20 my time. I'm getting tired. But we're here. We're going to be here for it all the way. Couple quick thoughts on this. So on the abortion issue in particular, this is such a talking point, that up to the point of birth. And listen, you can look this up. Like the CDC will tell you, abortions beyond, I think, like 15 weeks are incredibly rare. And they, as far as I know, are overwhelmingly because there is something unexpected that came up that needs that procedure to happen. I tell people often, you don't get to, your third trimester, have the baby shower, have the nursery set up, and you can't wait and then go, you know what? I changed my mind. We changed our minds. Let's just go ahead, and just abort. That's just not how it works. And it's a real bad talking point, although it's effective, when people say that they want to kill kids up to the point of birth. Also, another interesting point is that if you look at the data, abortions drop the most sharply under Democratic presidents. Now, I don't know if that's more of is there a reason for that? Is it just kind of how it fell out, or how it's kind of fallen down, or how the stats have worked? Excuse me. But abortion rates in general have dropped since the 80s. And there's a lot of data that suggests when you give people affordable access to, freaking healthcare and affordable access to contraceptions and birth control and sex education, which apparently, DeSantis' thing is to take a page out of the book that's a sex education book for high schoolers and show it to, the American public. Look, it's someone giving a blowjob. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. The average age of someone seeing pornography for the first time is 12. Okay, sex education is incredibly important because I'll tell you what, whether people want to recognize it or not, a lot of kids are getting their sex ed from pornography, and that's really freaking unhealthy. So, hate to tell you this, but by the time a high schooler's gotten to high school, they've probably already seen someone's private parts on a TV screen. So sex ed is important. But anyway, I digress. My point is to say that when we have access to affordable healthcare, affordable childcare, when we're lowering poverty rates, when we have affordable wages, these all go into making abortion, especially unnecessary ones, obsolete. I'm not aware of anyone who is like, wow, abortions are awesome, any more than someone's like, yes, surgery to remove cancer is a great thing. Like, no, of course not. Like, these are usually things that happen that are unexpected, and we need procedures to deal with them. But if we can do everything we can to minimize the need for an abortion by either, again, access to contraception or sex education or whatever else other reason that there could be, that is, in my opinion, the pro-life take. I find it interesting that people like Desantis never really talk about like the systemic issues that go into why abortions happen in the first place. And again, to be clear, everyone has a different story. It's the reason why, if you want to know my personal take, why I'm pro-choice over that pro-life ethic, is because every pregnancy is different, and there are different reasons why someone might need an abortion, and it's not my call or the state's call to decide between someone's doctor and their patient when an abortion is needed or not. It's just that simple. And so I just find it interesting to hear that. But overall, I will say I'm frustrated with Gavin. He does not seem to want to answer questions directly. And he had some questions to answer. Like, he never talked about the higher gas prices. I mean, it's absolutely true. California has freaking high gas prices, incredibly high. His answer was like, it made no sense. The oil companies are price gouging you. Well, what does that even mean? I don't understand. So I thought it was very, very interesting to see that. So, I think Gavin had some strong points for sure, but I think DeSantis, I mean, in my opinion, guys, I'm just being honest. I think DeSantis is winning the debate overall tonight. Whether what he's saying is true or not is a different discussion. But as far as how he comes across, as far as his talking points, but I will say there's one thing, I'm not sure if you picked up on it yet, and we're about to come back to the program, but all the questions are data points that make Florida look better and California look worse. So I don't really see that fair and balanced take from Hannity or from these questions personally. Like this stream, friends. Give us a subscribe. Let's hang out.
Welcome back to Hannity, the great red state, blue state debate. We continue with Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor Ron DeSantis. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, these are the numbers for the homeless population in each of your states. It is a big problem around the country. In the state of California, it is 172,000. In Florida, it is 26,000. Now, the per capita numbers are pretty much the same. For California, it is 44 per 10,000 people, while Florida has 12 per 10,000 people. So, Governor DeSantis, I ask you, why the disparity? What are the policies you are implementing that is different from that of California?
California is adopting leftist policies. Gavin Newsom was governor or mayor of San Francisco. He put out a 10-year plan like 20 years ago. He was going to end homelessness. Then a few years later, he had another plan. And now he says he's going to do, and it's only gotten worse. In the last 10 years in California, the homeless has gone up 45%. It's gone down in Florida 45%. But it's caused a huge problem with quality of life in California. The people that flee always bring up this. They've really empowered lawlessness and drug use. And, Gavin Newsom at one point tried to say that California was the freedom state. And I just kind of laughed, like, you're locking people down, you're doing all this. But then I thought about it. California does have freedoms that some people don't, that other states don't. You have the freedom to defecate in public in California. Oh. You have the freedom to pitch a tent on Sunset Boulevard. You have the freedom to create a homeless encampment under a freeway and even light it on fire. You have the freedom to have an open-air drug market and use drugs. You have the freedom, if you're an illegal alien, to get all these taxpayer benefits. So those are freedoms. They're not the freedoms our founding fathers envisioned, but they have contributed to the destruction of the quality of life in California, and the results speak for themselves. People are leaving the state because they have failed in addressing the homeless population.
Well, I love the rant on freedom. I mean, here's a guy who's criminalizing teachers, criminalizing doctors, criminalizing librarians, and criminalizing women that seek their reproductive care. You're making it harder to vote. You're banning books. I mean, spare me this notion of freedom. Ask the folks at Disney about freedom and free enterprise. Ask the folks at the Special Olympics that you threatened to fine with $27
because they were discriminating against the athletes.
Who goes after Special Olympians when it comes to the issue,
Down syndrome.
Ron, of homelessness?
That is wrong. That's being a liberal bully. That's being a bully.
Really?
They had Down syndrome, and you wanted to discriminate against them.
$27 million
They were discriminating
fine
against
Special
because they were
Olympians.
discriminating
I find that
against the
disgraceful.
athletes.
On the
They
issue
wanted to
of
marginalize
homelessness-
the athletes, and you wanted the athletes marginalized. That was wrong what you did. These are kids with Down syndrome
By the way,
that just wanted to compete.
I grew up working aid to adoption of special kids. I've been working with
You're
Special
a liberal
Olympians all
bully.
my life.
You
How
wanted them
dare
to be. You wanted them to be
Ron?
ostracized.
You threatened to
you should
fine
talk to
they're really
Special
going to
Olympians
town.
from Florida. She got to participate because we stood up for her
This is the way
rights.
you treat. By the way, no, hold on.
It's your
no,
turn.
let me say.
Go.
I can handle that. I can handle it. I'm used to that. But you know what?
You wanted her
your
not to
attacks
compete.
on the trans community,
You
your
wanted
attack
her
on the
not
gay
to
and lesbian
compete.
community.
That's wrong.
You attack
She should have been able
vulnerable
to compete,
communities.
and we
you
stood
attack
up for
women.
them, and we made sure they could
Again, Ron,
compete.
relax. I can handle it. I'm used to bully. You're nothing but a bully.
You're a
I understand that. Intimidating and humiliating people, that's your calling card.
Why did you want the
And by
Special
the way,
Olympians not
how
to be
well
able
is
to
it going
compete?
for you?
Why
How
did you
well
want
is
them
this
not to be able to compete?
How well is this
Why do
campaign
you not
going?
want them to be
He's
able
not
to
going to let me
compete?
talk, so
I don't
I'll talk to the
understand why
American
you would want to
people.
discriminate
Again,
against
I'll
an
remind
athlete
you.
with Down syndrome.
Friends, sorry, they're yapping like birds. The reason why DeSantis threatened to fine the Special Olympics was because they were requiring a vaccine mandate. So, just so you know what's going on, the Special Olympics said, hey, to compete, you have to be vaccinated with COVID vaccination. I guess there was one athlete who said no, and DeSantis says, we're going to fine you $27 million. So that's his version of discrimination, just giving you a heads up.
We are investing unprecedented resources, more accountability. We've gotten 68,000 people off the streets, close to 6,000 encampments we've gotten off the streets. We've also invested in unprecedented resources in reforming our behavioral health system. Ron has literally the worst mental health system in America, forgive me, outside of Mississippi and Texas. And so with all due respect to being lectured on some of these topics, Ron DeSantis is not the one I'm going to be listening to.
30-second response. Well, I'm looking at total time. Governor DeSantis,
look,
about
this-
2 minutes.
He needs it.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered, because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had. Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town. Then they cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags there. They cleaned everything up. So they're willing to do it for a communist dictator, but they're not willing to do it for their own people.
I mean, DeSantis, I think, is strong here, for sure.
There are two very important issues we have not hit. After the Hamas terror attacks on October the 7th, we have seen what is nothing short of a disturbing outbreak of virulent hatred, anti-Semitism around the world, in the halls of our Congress, on American streets, on college campuses.
They both went up the rates.
Last month, outside in Sydney Opera House in Australia. We've seen it all over Europe, but in Australia, anti-Israeli protesters literally in this day and age chanting, "Gas the Jews, F the Jews." In American cities, we have protesters calling for global Islamic war and demanding that Israel be wiped off the map, or in the words of Congresswoman Tlaib, from the river to the sea. Israel, meanwhile, is vowing to eradicate the terrorist group Hamas. But according to a report in the New York Times this week, U.S. officials have warned Israel that they need more to fight more surgically in Gaza.
Yeah, because you're bombing
Newsom,
the hell out of
30
kids.
seconds for you. We have to cut
Have you
back
seen the
on
death
time.
tolls of kids who've been bombed, Sean?
How can Israel win the war against this terrorist group using surgical strikes and directions from Joe Biden?
Israel. I visited Israel. I met with families, hostages. I saw videos of children being killed in front of their parents, parents being killed in front of their children. I saw a beheading with a garden hoe. This is not complicated to me. This is a fight between good and evil.
Oh my
Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they need to be eliminated, not just for the people of Israel and Jews around the world, but for the Palestinians themselves. But when it comes to the issue of anti-Semitism, you just mentioned a lot of things that have been occurring on Ron DeSantis's watch. He said nothing.
You're calling him anti-Semitic?
Marching. I'm saying he countenanced anti-Semitism, and now he's finally talking a big game ever since October 7th. How about the mass man marching in the street? Jews get the rope.
Gentlemen,
you said nothing.
Governor DeSantis.
Nothing on these issues. Look at the record.
Governor
Nothing short
DeSantis.
than a second Holocaust. They want to destroy Israel and wipe every single Jew off the map. Israel has every right to defend itself to the hilt. Biden should not be kneecapping them in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, Biden stranded a lot of American citizens over there. We're trying to get home. So I did an executive order in Florida, and we sent planes over to Israel right in the aftermath of October 7th, and we saved over 700 Americans, mostly Floridians, but not all, because Biden wouldn't do it. Finally, Biden started dumping people in Greece, and then they were sending a bill to the Americans just to get to Greece. If you come to this country illegally, they will pay to fly you all over the place. They'll put you up in a hotel at no expense. But yet our own citizens fleeing a war zone, they're going to send you a bill. Joe Biden failed those people, and we stepped up and got it.
Let me ask you. I want to turn to the
anti-Semitism.
We don't have a lot of time
on your streets for years.
I want to turn to the issue, gentlemen, of China. I talk about this often. Intellectual property theft, unfair trade practices. China has been hostile to our fighter jets in international airspace, hostile to our Navy in international waterways. We know all about the China spy balloon that happened 8 days right across the United States over military installations. Yep. The communist Chinese, they have nationals buying up thousands of acres of ranch land, farmland, and land near military installations. Their hostility towards Taiwan. Governor Desantis, our #1 geopolitical foe. I don't see that the Biden administration has been tough with them. What would you do differently?
Well, first, in Florida, we banned China from buying land in our state because you're right. You don't want them buying farmland or land near military bases. So we acted. We also got the Confucius Institutes out of our universities. China should not be involved in our universities at all. What you need to do is you need to have hard power in the Indo-Pacific to deter China's ambitions. You need to take the economy, and we need to decouple from China. We're dependent on them for so many things. And then finally, we need to get serious about their influence in this country. They shouldn't be able to buy farmland anywhere. I can tell you this, I would not go to China and grovel in front of Xi like Gavin Newsom did. He says China's a partner on climate change. China's adding 2 new coal plants every year. China's laughing at us with what they're doing. So yes, they're the #1 threat we face.
I'm looking up this farmland thing. According to the NBC report here, it says that fewer than 1,400 acres in a country with 13 billion acres of land have been purchased by Chinese buyers in the past year and a half, which is 0.03%. So this seems to be a little exaggerated. I'm trying to dig up more on it. I haven't really heard about this before, but it seems to be more of a talking point than actual fact. FYI.
I was looking for direct foreign trade from China, was doing trade shows.
That is false.
Open up an awesome.
That's already been debunked. And you talk about the liberal fact checkers. Even the liberal fact checkers
Donald Trump himself today called you Red Ron for a reason, because of your complete hypocrisy.
All right, we're almost out of time.
Talking a big game. I confronted Xi on the issue of fentanyl, Ron. I confronted them
Not on human rights. You didn't.
I absolutely did, with the foreign minister and the vice president and other leaders in China. You talk a big game. Meanwhile,
we're
you haven't done
over
anything
time.
Except tweet things
Final
out.
question, Governor Desantis. We owe you about 90 seconds, but you get the last word as per the coin flip.
What are you giving me? 5 seconds? What do I get?
No, I'll do okay. I'll be a little more generous than that. Look, it's been a very passionate debate tonight. Actually, it's been fun to be a part of. I think the American people will decide. Governing philosophies could not be more different. But let me ask you this, kind of a fun question. You both clearly love your states. You visited each other's state. Governor DeSantis, you can take as much time as you want. You have an extra 90 seconds. What is your favorite thing about the state of California? And
I give him 5 minutes for this.
Go right ahead.
That's a good question.
All right, we'll stay longer. 5 minutes, Governor.
When I got orders as a Navy lieutenant to go to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, I had not spent any real time in California in my life. Florida native, and I'm very proud of the state. But I got down there, and that strand is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And then all up and down, just a tremendous coastline. I do believe California has more natural advantages than any state in the country, which is why when you have so many people leaving on net, that's hard to do. Like, people don't want to leave there because it really is such a beautiful area. And I'm proud of the military installations that are there. I'm proud of what the Navy's been able to do in conjunction with the state. It was really important duty. It really helped forge me as an individual and as an American. And so I'll always have very, very fond memories of that nice strand down there in Southern California.
I love that. I mean, Reagan.
I don't know what you love about California.
Used to call California Coast of Dreams. By the way,
what do you love about Florida?
What I love about your question is the comedy in the question, meaning, you know what? we all want to be loved. We need to be loved. We all want to be protected, respected, and connected. I think there is a unity frame here.
Gavin,
you said
answer damn question.
Ron, I have no doubt Ron DeSantis loves this country.
God.
I love this country. It's not about red versus blue. It's red, white, and blue. The United States of America. And I think we're all better off, and we're all better off. And so I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you, Ron, being a family man. You got 3 incredible kids. I appreciate your wife, your sacrifice, and I appreciate your military service. But I also appreciate we do have fundamental differences about the fate and future of this country.
Nice
and that's why I'm going to be working so hard
Just say Disney.
to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris reelected in 2024.
Disney.
You couldn't resist. You had to go right back to 2024. All right, here's the last question. Would you do this again?
Well, you know what?
I hope we could do another half hour. I got all night.
Joe Biden should show up to a debate.
That's why I want to
I have another 20 minutes, and I've got a lot of questions.
I'm happy to.
You want to stay?
Let's just do an extended hour. I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Then
this has been fun.
I think it's been
He
fun.
did not answer such a simple-ass question.
I'm sorry to the guests that I've invited. I got to take a break, though, in the meantime. We've got to pay some bills. It's not a cheap set we built for y'all. I hope you like it. Courtesy of your favorite channel, Fox News, and you do admit you watch often. We'll take a break. They've agreed to stay. Well, that's, I guess, a debate on the fly. We'll continue on the other side and later have live post-debate coverage.
Okay, guys, I'll keep the whatever. I mean, how, Gavin, what do you think about Florida? You know, red, white, and blue. I'm like, bro, literally all you have to say to own DeSantis and still speak and still answer the question is say, I love Disneyland. I love Disney. And the man couldn't even answer that. Listen, here's the thing, okay? I will be straight with you, friends. I'm looking at you right now, right there in the camera, okay? I'll be straight with you. I don't know. I did not know much about Gavin. I've never really seen him speak. I'm on the East Coast. I'm a Jersey guy. I know that there was an attempt to get him recalled that got largely shut down. And I will say, his opening statement, I'm like, whoa, okay, this guy's pretty well spoken. Fine. But my God, like, Gavin, there were so many times where you were asked questions. Now, to be fair, I would even say that many of the questions were lopsided. I get that, okay? But also, Gavin, I'm talking to you, Gavin. You knew what you were walking into. You know who Sean Hannity is. You know who DeSantis is. You know what network you're on. You knew what you were walking into, and you still decided. And then you deflected so many questions. And honestly, I am definitely the progressive here, or more progressive, I should say. I'm definitely more liberal than DeSantis or like even Chris Christie would be, right? I'm definitely more on that spectrum of things. But dude, that was freaking frustrating. How do you not answer a simple ass questions? Friends, I think the debate's largely over. I'll wait till they come back to break and see if they or come back from break and see if they do anything else. But what did you think? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure what the point of this was. It's kind of weird. Him and DeSantis kind of went at it. Then at the end, they shake hands. And I will say, I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that there are lines again, because with Trump, there are no lines. Like Trump, Vivek, they're just very like, it's all personal for them. And it seems like at least for Gavin, maybe DeSantis too, it's not as personal. So that's nice. Hopefully they actually talk behind the scenes and aren't dehumanizing each other. But I'm not really sure what the point of this debate was. Gavin was emphatic. He's not going to run. DeSantis has no shot in hell. So it's kind of like watching two people who have no chance at becoming president argue with Sean Hannity pretending to be fair and balanced. And so, okay, like I guess I'm glad that we watched it. It was helpful, but I don't know if it was beneficial to anyone. I'd love to know in the comments what you think. Like, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm just trying to think of the best way. Thumbs up for, I'll be fair. Thumbs up if you think DeSantis won. Thumbs down if you think Newsom won. And give me a peace sign if you think they both sucked. Let's just do it that way, all right? Thumbs up if you think DeSantis won. Thumbs down if you think Newsom won. A peace sign if you think that it was a complete shit show. Also, if I do this, will it give me the firework thing? Does it do that now? No, it doesn't. Okay. Sometimes on certain... there's the balloons. These freaking animations, I think 2 thumbs up is fireworks. Let's see if it does the fireworks. Hey, yeah. See? This has got to be some kind of update, because this happens on every platform I use. Zoom, the whole nine. Okay, I got a lot of peace signs coming in so far that this thing was a shit show, so that's good to know. Yeah, I tend to be in the peace category for sure. I don't think there was much beneficial here. But friends, I do appreciate you watching and hanging out with us. Again, we are a nonprofit organization. If you want to support our work, you can donate or you can subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. And I try and do these whenever there's a debate. It's important for us to be in the loop, right? Whether we like it or not, these people have a lot of power. Being the governor of any state is a powerful position. Running for president is a powerful position. And it's really important that we are in tune, that we are listening to what they're saying and what the talking points are and how they're navigating, I think, real questions. I mean, to be fair, I think it is important to point out like the gas prices in California. I think it's fair to point out that I mean, Sean didn't even mention the cost of housing. And those are fair critiques. Like, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican or whatever, or if you're a Democrat or a Democratic candidate. Those are fair questions to ask. They just are. Okay, let's come back. Let's see what's going on here and if we're going to go debate anymore.
By mutual agreement, both candidates had other commitments, and they realized afterwards they couldn't stay longer, but we appreciate them all being here tonight. Okay, what did you think about it? Was there a winner, loser, winners, losers? You get to react. Anyway, here joining us, co-host of The Five and former Democratic Congressman Harold Ford Jr.
Let's kill this stream then. Goodbye to everyone. All right, so listen, friends, I appreciate you being here. This was a lot of fun. It means a lot. Again, if you like this kind of work, if you enjoy these kinds of commentaries, please subscribe to the channel. We do a ton of content. We're also on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter. We're a nonprofit organization. We hold space for folks marginalized by the evangelical church. We advocate for accountability inside of evangelical spaces, and we help people explore the Christian tradition beyond the basement of fundamentalism, and that includes politics, because politics are very intertwined into the Christian American psyche. So I like doing this stuff. I like to keep track of everything. Friends, again, we're a nonprofit organization. Feel free to donate. It helps us so much. We are financially transparent. You can go to the website, our website, thenewevangelicals.com, see our profit and loss statement. There are no secrets here. All donations go to supporting this work and our team. Thank you so much for being here. I'm out 15 minutes early. That's wonderful. I'm going to go to bed. Maybe you will do the same. Talk to you all later on. See ya, my friends. Thanks for being here. Bye.